Alright, how's it going? And you're probably wondering why I'm wrapped up like this. I'm kind of cold and I just don't feel like not being wrapped up, okay? So we're going to be talking about, I think it's 10 movies that I grabbed. I'm not sure the exact number. These are just movies, in my opinion, that if you're starting a Blu-ray collection or a DVD collection, whatever type of movie is your preference, these are the ones that I would personally start with. Not necessarily my favorites. A lot of these are my favorites, but there's a couple in here that I just think if you're going to buy a movie, you need to see these just visually on your own TV in your own house, and having them in a physical media form's a lot better. I think we all know, streaming is nice for the convenience sake of everything, but you watch a movie in the Blu-ray form compared to when you go on Disney Plus or Netflix, it's night and day difference. So much better. The bit rate is just a complete joke on streaming. Obviously, you've got millions of other people watching content while you're also watching it, so it's just impossible to have that crisp look that you're looking for. So without further ado, let's just hop into it. So The Incredibles. This is the only animated movie I chose, but this is the one that comes to mind when I think of best animated movie. For me, this is the best one. And if you want to watch something visually appealing, this entire movie is beautiful, especially in Blu-ray. I had it in DVD growing up. It looked great then, because obviously DVD was the best we had back then. This case needs to be swapped out. Apparently the bottom doesn't close. Oh well. I'm just going to get a whole new Incredibles, if I'm being honest. I don't like this copy of the movie. If you're going to buy it, get the one with the whole family on the front. This is just the worst looking version. It was $4, so I bought it. So yeah, this is, like I said, the best animated movie in my opinion. It's basically an adult film, and that's why I'm saying if you're going to go out and buy a movie to watch, this is probably the best animated one. Bang for your buck. Shrek would probably be my other pick. I didn't grab that, but great looking movie. That's really the point that I'm getting at with these. Like, if a lot of good movies in here, but visually, is it good? Is it good on the eye? And this movie, all the visuals are amazing. All the different locations. You've got, like, the city looks great. I don't care how dated the CGI looks. The suits pop. The blue suit that he has in the beginning looks great. Frozone's ice looks great. Like, there's just so many things that pop in my mind when I'm watching this, and it looks HD and great, and animated movies look amazing. They really do. So I guess you can't go wrong with too many of them. So this is just my personal preference for best one that I would recommend. The Breakfast Club. Now, this isn't what I'm recommending for the picture quality. This is just a strict, I'm recommending this because it's such a good movie. I think everybody has to have Breakfast Club in their collection. And if you don't, I don't know what you're doing. If you're a movie collector, I don't know how you don't like Breakfast Club. Everybody was one of these characters in high school, if not multiple of them. We all had these different personalities, and it's kind of interesting. I think this movie kind of broke down a couple barriers. I heard somebody say that, and it kind of stuck with me. It was when I was a kid. Someone said they broke down, like, the social barriers in high school. And I think that there's some truth to that. I'm not sure because I wasn't alive back then, but I think that there was a lot more division. If you were a basketball player, you didn't talk to kids who were straight A science nerds. If you were I guess wrestler would be better to use in this term than basketball player, because that's what he is in this movie. If you're the quiet one who, I think she's like a thief, then I guess you wouldn't be talking to the rich preppy chick. And he wouldn't be talking to, or she wouldn't be talking to Bender, obviously, because he's a dropout and all of that. So it's just like none of these people would have connected. But now I see friend groups, and when I was in high school, there was all these friend groups that had nothing to do with each other really, but they all were friends based off of one thing that they had in common, whatever that was. But they played different sports, they had different interests, but they were still friends. I just don't think that was a thing before this movie. So that to me, I love it. It's a long way to roundabout of saying I love that this movie exists. I think everybody should own it, whether it's on DVD or Blu-ray. Now this is one I'm recommending strictly just on the visuals. I'm not a huge Matrix fan as I get older. It's a good movie, but I think there's a lot of overrated aspects to this whole film, especially with the sequels that came after. Can't help but almost feel like they just kind of struck gold accidentally. the Wachowski brothers. I can't help but feel like, you know, as time goes on, I just like this less and less, which is just, it's unfortunate, but whatever. That aside, I think the visuals are amazing, and for the time, I would imagine, I wasn't alive, it was probably extremely groundbreaking, and that's why every film in 1999 to like 2005 had to reference the bullet time, you know, the dodge, and all the other references to this film, because this was just one of those things that kind of instantly entered the pop culture zeitgeist. So I would just recommend this because of the visuals mostly. That the whole last 50 minutes just looks great in this film. The whole movie looks really good. I just like the way there's like that green tint over it, letting you know that you're in a Matrix world. Probably not the best copy of the movie, the Digibook. The Shining, which I would recommend this to everybody ever. If you haven't seen it, it's my favorite horror movie ever. This and the Exorcist are 1 and 2. I just love this movie, and visually it looks great. I think it's on 4K now, but I would never sit here and ever recommend 4K to any of you. 4K is a complete and utter sham. It's not what it's made out to be, as far as I'm concerned. You buy a 4K, and 80% of the time it's completely dull and gray, and you can't even tell what's happening because of how badly saturated it is and lifeless. It looks like Lord of the Rings. Sorry to go off on a tangent. Looks lifeless in 4K. So if that's possible, I don't see the point of buying anything in 4K, unless it's like the only option. So I would recommend sticking with this version of The Shining, but I think this is a must-own for everybody, whether you're really a big horror fan or not. You don't really need to be to put this in once every couple of years and then just enjoy the visuals, enjoy the acting. This is one of the best performances ever from Jack Nicholson. It really is, in my opinion. Depends on who you talk to. A lot of people, they hate this film. I don't know too many people that love it. I've always loved it. I love the way that you kind of descend into madness along with the character because you don't know what the fuck's going on. It's so good. So please, just own it. Pulp Fiction, my favorite Tarantino movie, and it's not a coincidence that my 2 favorite Tarantino movies are the ones that Roger Avary worked on. I'm not saying Tarantino's not talented. I just think in his own way, he gets in his own path a lot. He's very big-headed and thinks he knows more than everybody else. And Roger Avary, I just feel like he's the one that kind of had a lot of the funnier dialogue with Jules and Vincent. And maybe that's just me. Again, maybe I'm just creating things in my head, but I'm not a huge Inglourious Basterds fan. I find Django Unchained kind of unwatchable, if I'm being honest. The only newish Tarantino movies that I like are Hateful Eight and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. The rest of them, I could live without them. Even Kill Bill, I could live without the indulgence. I could live without most of his films that aren't Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs, 2 best films in his first 2. I just think that this is just a staple of the 1990s. You talk to most people, this is their favorite film of his, and it's with a good reason. This copy of the movie, too, I just absolutely love this version. And again, if you own this on DVD, whatever, just own the movie, period, is good enough. I just need to pull this out real quick because it just, the inside looks nice. I'll probably have to get another copy of this at some point, though, because that's sort of ripping. And my ADD is kind of bothering me with that. My favorite blockbuster of all time, Jurassic Park. This, to me, is the perfect blockbuster. And there's a reason they've re-released it a bunch of times, not just because they want to make more money. I'm sure that doesn't hurt the situation. The only real flaw for me is on this Blu-ray is this cover. They can never get the covers right with this Jurassic Park Blu-ray. The other one's boring, and this, I think it's basically just the logo in big form with a black background, and now this one is just a pretty shitty looking Photoshop job of that scene from the movie. But other than that, it's a great transfer. It's the best, like I said, one of the best blockbusters ever made. And we all still think about this when we think of dinosaurs. We just think of the T-Rex and the scenes in this movie that come to mind. The raptor scene in the kitchen. I just think, like, if you're having a nice Friday night, Saturday night chill session with your friends or something and you're having some drinks, it's like the perfect movie to just throw on and have a good time. It's got some comedy in there, whether it's intentional or not. It's got some great action, like it's some unparalleled action to this day, where I think the CGI slash animatronic work is just incredible. And you got some dramatic moments, and Laura Dern looking hot as ever. So it's a great movie. I'll show these two together because they're one and the same, really. T1 and T2. I think it's just like you have to own both of them. You can't just own one. You gotta own them both. It's a complete story here. And it should have always been that way. We didn't ever need a T3. We didn't ever need a T4. I have all of them, of course, but you don't need them. This is the only two that you really need. And these are the copies you want to, by the way. You don't want the newer copy of T2, the 4K, which I also own. I think it's up there somewhere. It's terrible. The transfer's awful. A lot of people have already probably warned you about it, so don't get it. But the first movie, in my opinion, is the best Terminator, and it's the one I've watched the most, and it's always been the one I've watched the most. The second one's obviously the action one of the two. The first one's more of a horror movie. It's like a slasher, really. And that's kind of what bothers me about the second one. It takes such a drastic turn in a different direction. I still love this movie. I think it's a must-own, like I said, but it's just, if you're going to go bang for your buck, I think the first one's the better movie. Just my opinion. But it's always one of those things, you watch the first one, you put the second one right after. You watch both of them. It's like a double feature type of thing. So that's why I put both of them in this video, and yeah, you have to own them both. We're whittling down to the last couple. So this could take the cake for best blockbuster. I said Jurassic Park, but this is right neck and neck. And of course, Steven Spielberg made both of them. There's no coincidence. He's popped up in here a couple times, and he will one more time with the next one. Spoiler. This to me is just the scariest, not horror movie. I mean, I have it in my horror section. I guess it's technically horror in a way, but there's not really anything shown that's out of the norm when it comes to like a PG-13 movie nowadays, where you've got like a little bit of blood, and I think we've just become so desensitized. But when I was a kid, this scared the living shit out of me. I was so scared to go into the water. I remember when my uncle putting this on when I was in the basement. He had the Jaws put on, and it was dark, and perfect setting to freak me out. And there was the scene obviously at the beginning where she's being tugged under. I didn't swim that entire summer in the lakes. It just completely ruined lakes for me for a while, even though I didn't realize they weren't in lakes. This is just, you have to own Jaws, right? I can't believe Universal took the ride out of Universal Studios. It still, to me, baffles me to this day. It's one of the most iconic IPs. You hear that theme, the dun 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 dun. We all know it. We all know Jaws. We've all seen clips from it. We've all seen the exploding shark at the end of the movie. And, you're going to need a bigger boat. So you must own it. Now, this is just the holy grail of must own. I've kind of debated Star Wars and Indiana Jones, but that is more depending on, I have quite a few friends that don't like either of those. So I think that's more of a preference type of thing. Like Indiana Jones, you kind of have to be into that type of thing. Star Wars, you kind of have to be into that type of thing. Back to the Future, anybody can like this, and anybody I talk to likes these movies. You got the first one, which is one of the best movies of all time. It's my favorite movie ever made. And then the second one, which is a pretty damn good sequel, all things considered. Considering the end of the first movie was like a joke, they had no intention of actually making a sequel. They found a pretty good way of making it work and link, and I like the direction it went in. And the third one is kind of slept on, in my opinion. I've always loved the third one. It was always my most watched as a kid, even over the first one. I'd always put this one in. I just love the whole Western vibe of this movie. And then you've obviously got the bonus features, which I always put in as well, because it teaches you a lot about the making of, and you get to talk to Spielberg. I'm talking to Spielberg, but you get to watch Spielberg talk. You get to watch Bob Zemeckis and Bob Gale, all of them, and even Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd. They all tell their stories about the movies and stuff. So that's a must-own if you're a movie guy at all, or gal. And if you're into collecting, I think you have to own this version of it, the 30th anniversary edition. Any other version of this just will not do. Like, I've seen a lot of people own the one, like the book, like the pamphlet one. No, I have another version over there that's worse. You have to own this. Yeah, the book version. This is it. So that's that. I hope you enjoyed. I don't have any other videos planned, so we will see what comes next. See you in the next video. Take care.